Hey everyone, and welcome to It's Time to Excel, where we inspire and we ignite all those possibilities that are all around us. So grateful to have you joining us today. And I'm waiting for a guest to pop on here, and we're having some little technical challenges, but that's not unusual in my world. So hopefully she'll be along here momentarily because we were having a conversation before I invited her to join me for Time to Excel. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to kind of have her come in and join us today as we talk about, of course, money management has gone to the dogs. So this month we have been thinking about the personalities and all the different personalities that are out there and how it affects exactly what we do, even when it comes to our money, how we respond to things, how we work with folks, how pretty much our reaction to the situations at hand. And and there's Mr. Winston. He's coming in the background. He's a little fuzzy, but that's okay. We've got him coming through. So, for those that are here, we are so grateful to have you here. And I'm just kind of curious to think, I see someone's watching us. What personality type did you have? Do you guys remember as we were talking about those personalities and seeing kind of how that works in our lives? We talked about Bear. Bear was the first one we kind of talked a little bit about, and Bear leads up to his name. He really does. He commands some attention. 86-pound, big black dog, big head. He gets some attention. When he barks, he's got that lovely deep bark that is, oh, wait, what's going on? He's going to get your attention. Is that your type of personality? When you walk into a room, do you command that attention? Are you very set in your way is the way that needs to be done? A quick decision maker? Some of those different things as we were talking about what was going on and thinking about that when it comes to money management, but that also holds true as you're thinking about working with other folks. As entrepreneurs, we work with all different types of personalities, and that type of personality is going to make a quick decision. So you better have your facts and your ducks in a row, and you better have it in outline form. So same thing with their money. You need to know exactly what's going on. They need to look at a report. They need to know what those numbers are, and they need to know so they can make their decision. That's that type of personality. And that's what I equated, of course, to Bear as you're thinking about that. And, as I said, he commands that attention and really does look towards that. So thinking about that, is anyone in that type of a personality? If those that are with us here today are kind of coming in and checking it out again, is that your personality as you're coming through? And I have no idea what is going on. I would have thought she would have been here by now, but that's okay. It is one of those things, and we're just I'll resend her the link and see if she can make it here for us here today. I'm going to tell her around too and see what's going on. If that doesn't work, I'll give her a quick text as we're talking. All right, so that was personality number one. What about personality number two? So the next one I was talking about was, of course, Bandit. Bandit's my little social bug. He was my one that he just wants to get everybody along. He wants to make everybody part of the family. Anybody that came into the home, whether it's four-legged, two-legged, didn't matter. He was going to welcome you in. And that's very characteristic of personalities that are the peacemakers. They want to get everybody working together. They want to figure out how we can make everybody happy. They want to go from there. So that being the case, when you're thinking about when it's coming to money management, can you always make everything happy? Probably not. So sometimes you got to have a little bit of that personality coming in and saying, okay, well, we got to make some quicker decisions. Whereas the other one's got to evaluate every single possibility that's out there. So when you think about that and you have this whole you're evaluating everything, it's hard to make a decision when you have overload sometimes on that information because you research it to death. You research and research upon research to see if you can figure out. How many times do we deal with folks like that? Now, keep in mind, each and every one of us have all of these within us at some point. And probably at different times, different things show up in different ways of reacting. But you probably have a typical way of reacting to things. So if you constantly have to have what all the numbers mean, all the little ins and outs, all the little details, it's going to be difficult to get those decisions, because you get so much information. It's, as I said, it tends to be overwhelming. So thinking about that when you're coming to money, do you have to know every single detail before you make a decision? That can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge. So thinking about that. The other one, of course, we talked about was Gizmo. Gizmo was my little sergeant at arms, as I kind of nicknamed him as we were going. He was my one that I never really had to raise a voice. He knew what the deal was. He knew that he had to do it. But I had to convince him that, he had to go with mom's rules too, because he's a bit of a bully too. So that one I kind of equated to the very, the rules and you're going to follow the rules. There's not, it is what it is. This is the way it's going to be done and everybody's going to follow suit to it. So that often is, they have to know every single nuance. Those are typical accountants type personalities who have to know it all. They have to know all the little intricacies and all the details. They are your detail folks. Now let's face facts. When it comes to money management, you need some details. You got to have some details, whether we like it or not. So we need these little sergeant arms and these gizzies to get out there and make sure we have all the details so that the bears can make the decision and we can do what's best and kind of make everything working. So as you're thinking about this and you're thinking about these personalities that come into play and you're starting to deal, whether it's with money, whether it's with other folks, because as entrepreneurs, you're in the sales business. You're selling a service, you're selling a product, you are selling something. And we have to have that value for there. And each one of them, you have to be able to present the same information possibly in different ways. And that's just part of it. That's part of how we're doing, how we're going through it. So thinking about that and as it's coming through and kind of working your way through that, what makes sense? And then, of course, the fourth dog is the character who was just yipping there a few seconds ago. And that's our lovely Winston. Winston is the life of the party. This kid doesn't know anybody that he doesn't love. Everybody loves him because he's just crazy. He's nuts. He is the life of the party. But when it comes to details, he's basically allergic to them because he could care less. All he knows is he wants to have fun. Sound familiar? People are great to be around, but when it comes to money management, and if you're allergic to numbers and the details, it's going to be a problem. So all of these personalities are part of what makes us unique. Part of this is knowing how to interact with folks of all different types of personalities. And that's kind of why I wanted to have some fun this particular month. And we kind of went through and we kind of jumped in and out as we were going through and saying, okay, I have characteristics when I think about this and how I typically respond. Are you someone who needs all the details? Well, your profit and loss report may have to be a little bit more broken out. That's okay. Maybe you don't want any of the details. You just need to make sure it works. In that case, you need to surround yourself with someone who's okay getting those details because you still have to make some decisions. You are an entrepreneur. So there's still some decision making that you have to do. So thinking about that. In addition to that, we got to play by the rules. So there are some definite rules. You've got to pay your taxes. You've got to do these certain things whether you like it or not. So we are going to have to, and why not plan for that? Why not set yourself up for success? And as entrepreneurs, you've got to make quick decisions some days. Some days you just have to make a decision and then make that decision right. There are times that happens. Thinking about that, there's decisions that need to be made when you're talking with folks. How do they need to consume the information that you provided? Because you have a value that you are offering to your clients. What value are you offering? Are you presenting your value in a way that they understand? I've took this month and we looked at it as far as money management, some things to consider, some things to be thinking about. Flip side being, we deal with each and every one of these people, dogs, personalities, every single day. And our job is to make sure that we can communicate effectively because the bottom line is your value is how you are being able to present it to others because you wouldn't be in business if you didn't have a value to offer. The way we've got to do it, though, is we've got to make sure we can communicate to these folks and these different personality types. And that's why I wanted to have some fun with it. I wanted to take a few minutes, take a look about and say, okay, here's some characteristics. If you're dealing with a bear type personality, you better have the outline form. Here's the bottom line. Here's what you need to do. Here's the facts. Make your decision. If you're dealing with a Winston, they're over here at the life of the party. Those details mean nothing to them, but you got to get enough of the details to make it, you got to at least guide them. And you've got to have some fun with it because especially when it comes to numbers, You got to have some fun with it. You got to poke a little fun with it. You got to have a little bit of entertainment as it's going. Yes, they're numbers. Yes, they're necessary. So we got to kind of work in some of those bounds, but you're not going to have a 2-hour conversation on all the ins and out of a profit and loss statement with a Winston. You're going to have about a 30-second conversation. So you need to be able to have that presented and still maybe make a little bit of fun with it. There's ways to do that. And then, of course, if you have the person that needs all the details, that particular person, you better have all the details because they're going to ask a ton of questions. Are you prepared to answer those questions? Are you ready to answer those questions? You need to know and be able to communicate that back as you're going. And then, of course, the peacemaker, just trying to figure out what's going to work. So you need to make sure. And each personality is looking for a little bit different things, but the bottom line is they're looking for what you have to offer. And that's what I want to encourage you to do, is no matter what service that you're offering, be able to communicate, knowing these personalities, as we kind of had some fun and we poked some fun at it as far as money management has gone to the dogs. And I hope that maybe you got some insights into who you are so that you know how to relate to others as you service your clients going forward. So I hope you enjoyed this little bit of a series. They've been short, they've been pretty quick. It's just been kind of fun to kind of talk about them. And in my world, it was great to have a little tribute to Bandit as well as we kind of go through. And the dynamics shift and they change each and every day. And I want to encourage you to be aware of it and to do what you can do so that your value is seen by everyone that you work with. So once again, thank you so much for joining us for It's Time to Excel, where we inspire and we ignite the possibilities. And of course, since this was all about money management, keep in mind, if money management, no matter what personality you are, if there's some support that you need, especially when it comes to QuickBooks, make sure you reach out, go to chat with Janet, book a time. Let's have a conversation, because maybe we can find a way to support that so that you have the numbers you need to make the educated decisions that you are. So I am so grateful for that. And I'm going to go ahead. She has made it on. So Kristen is here. So I'm going to go ahead and add to the stream here. I've been kind of chatting a little bit. I'm not sure technical glitches here as we've got it. Can we hear you now? Let's see. There you are. I can hear you. Yay.
Hey.
Oh, it has been crazy. Kristen, we were actually talking for our regular appointment, and I'm like, you know what, let's come join here. But technical glitches were fighting us. So I kind of recapped the last little bit as far as the personalities, talking about Bear being that, quick decision kind of a deal. We talked about Gizzy being kind of in the rules, playing by all the rules. And then, of course, Bandit being very loyal and trying to figure out both sides of the story. And then Winston, who could care less about numbers. Because Winston's a puppy and he's crazy. So, but Kristen, tell me a little about you, because you are in a different field. You're in the legal side. So
Yes.
it's looking for that. So, and I'm suspecting those personality traits show up not just in money management, but the clients and folks that you're working with. So first and foremost, welcome to It's Time to Excel. We have Kristen McIntosh with us today. So share a little bit about you and who you are, so at least the audience can kind of figure that out. And then we'll kind of play around a little bit with this.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I had some technical difficulties getting on, but hey, it's a lawyer thing on here. But I'm Kristen McIntosh, and I'm known as the happy lawyer because, yes, I am happy and I am a lawyer, which is a little unusual, but it's because I love what I do, which is working with my clients to design unique estate plans that are personalized for exactly what they need and not what, Joe Schmo down the street needs. And I always like to make my clients comfortable and develop relationships with them. And I do offer them, home baked goodies when they finish an assignment with me.
Well, there we go. I need to get on that hit list. That's where we're going. But yeah, and as I said, we were talking a little bit about this whole money management has gone to the dogs. And as I said, I've just been poking fun with it's the standard disc personalities and just as kind of thinking about that. But I think what I wanted to bring around and what I was wrapping up this particular week is we have all of these personalities within us. But more importantly, we deal with all of these personalities, no matter what service or product we offer. And it's how we're communicating. So what have you seen as far as, because you said you build those relationships. So I think that's why we've connected so much, is building that relationship, building that foundation and figuring out how we can support one another moving forward. So thinking about that with your clients, what are you seeing? Because I said, a happy lawyer doesn't always go together, which is always gets conversation going, which is awesome. So, and your focus is on estate planning
Correct.
predominantly, but you do. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, what I've learned in doing this is meeting people where they're at. You really
Okay.
want to tap into their personalities. I mean, I do tell people when they call me, for an initial consultation, I will tell them, that, I hope that you will end up working with me, but the happy lawyer is not a great fit for everybody. Not everybody
Yeah.
wants, believe it or not everybody wants happy on here. But if I'm
Sure.
dealing, but when clients do come and retain me, when I'm dealing with a client, on the rare occasion that is like Russ wants to get to the point, then
Mm-hmm.
I adjust accordingly. Most of the clients end up working with me are the opposite, where they want a little more hand holding and information. And a lot of it is making sure that I read those cues correctly and
Mm-hmm.
adapt my style to make sure that they are understanding it. And with the reading the cues, which is going kind of where you were going,
Mm-hmm.
Janet, with the personalities, it's important to pay attention not only to the verbal, but the nonverbal, because some people are afraid to speak up and say, I don't get this, even though I tell them,
Mm-hmm.
permission. If you don't understand something, let
Yeah,
me
but
know.
they don't
It's
know.
me, it's not you, because that just means I'm not doing my job well, breaking it down.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really paying attention to the cues and learning how to, adapt your, traditional way of doing things to that individual. And by doing that, then you do make it a more personalized relationship.
And
So
I
I don't know
think
what
that helps
category that puts me in with
where
the
I'm
all.
at. And I always look at it too. If I'm not communicating it right, then I'm not doing my job. That's on me. But and
Absolutely.
especially, you're doing the legal stuff. That's tough. I mean, a state. Who wants to be? I mean, let's face facts. That's not the most happiest conversation that you're going to have. And kind of like money management, and that's kind of the same deal. Is one, they may not know what they don't know, which is three-quarters of the problem. And that's not anything against anybody. That's why we specialize in what we do. But flip side being, they may not even know what questions to ask. And I
Mhm.
think that's part of it as learning. And you hit it on the head, learning to understand those nonverbals. Are you getting the deer in the eyeballs? Like is it starting? Are they just saying yes just to say yes? Or, are you talking? I know sometimes I have to remember I talk in accounting language because that's what I was in for over 20 years. So I've had to learn to bring that to a different level, and that's part of it. And just kind of being patient and working through some of that. In my case, numbers scare the heck out of folks. And they're not fun most days. And then all of a sudden you realize what all you're spending. And I think that's one of the biggest realizations when I start working with folks. We start really realizing what you are spending and where the money's going and where it's coming in from. Because I question you. And you do that same thing for your clients as well.
Yep.
So that in the long run, they're going to be successful. And I think that's the whole thing. We're looking for the long term to be able to work with them so that they are successful going forward. And I can tell the kids have come home because the other kids are barking at them.
Well, that brings to your point, though. Not everybody's
Yeah,
going to bark like that and tell you
that's
that
true.
they don't understand, which is
That's
why you do
perfect.
need to pay attention to those nonverbal, and you need to give them permission
Yes,
to
that's a
let you
great point.
know that they don't understand. Because you talk in accounting language, I talk in legal language, and I tell
Mm-hmm.
them that some of that legal gobbledygook, and I even use the word gobbledygook with them. I'm like,
Yeah.
that does have to stay in your will,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to understand it. And I can put some things in normal language on here, but if I'm start talking like too much up here, I give permit again, give people permission to break
Mm-hmm.
it down. And I said, if you're still not getting it, you need to
Tell
speak
me
up.
again.
No,
Yeah, tell
and
me
I'll
again.
stop, and I'll do what you do, Janet, and I'll stop and interject even when they're like, oh yeah, I'll ask them, are you really understanding this? Because again, the nonverbal, I can tell that they're not really getting
Mm-hmm.
it on there.
Exactly. And that makes you unique. And that's why the cool thing, and that's what this whole show is designed for, is to have the opportunity to kind of share sources and resources with folks to be able to help them because, it takes a village. My whole
Absolutely.
premise is here to inspire and to, so that we can inspire them to excel. It's their time to excel, but you know what? We can't do it alone. I
Nope.
don't have the legal expertise. Good gravy. I mean, that's not
I
my
don't have the
wheelhouse at
accounting,
all.
and I don't have
Give
the
me
accounting.
QuickBooks any day. Give me Excel. I'm good. give me all this craziness. I mean, I even ran into an issue. I mean, you and I had a conversation even with when I had that whole issue with the power of attorney that I thought was completely taken care of, because we had updated it when we moved from Pennsylvania into North Carolina. And I'm like, and I found out the hard way that there was a step missed that somehow got lost in translation. So if the attorney that we had been working with, if they made that comment, I was in the boat that apparently I missed it, or it was just something that never came up, and it caused me grief because I thought I had a power of attorney in place and it wasn't. So, that was a challenge. But how often do you run into folks that do that? And that's probably I mean, you are willing to, whatever questions come up, reach out and have a conversation, I would believe, because I know you've always been great to talk to and say, okay, well, I'm like, what the heck do I do now? And you gave me a direction. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I wish I'd known that like 6 years ago. But okay. But little things like that. But did I just miss it in translation? Very, very possible. That's what happened. And I think with what we're doing, it is a challenge. But I think it's also important that people get this stuff in place.
Yes, that is correct.
Because I'm betting you have horror stories on the opposite side.
Oh, yes, I do on there, which is why I'm, my work is, being proactive. And along with what you were saying, to make sure they really understand it, is I don't tell my clients, I work on a flat fee basis. So I don't have draft limits. I don't have meeting limits. If you need 20 drafts, we'll do 20 drafts. If you, need, more meetings, then let me know. And then even after they leave, I always tell them, if you still have questions that come up, feel free to reach out to me.
And that makes a big difference. Because just me, it was 6 years later before I needed help. And it was this quirky thing that popped up. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? But little things like that do happen. And I think that's the value of the service that you're providing. That's the value that you're bringing to clients on a topic that is not happy. Let's face facts. It's not a happy thing. But
nobody likes to talk about death, dying, and disability.
No, not so much. I just don't want to go there. But I have to admit, for me, I was an only child. My parents were so much older when I was born. So the odds of them, I was just blessed to have them as long as I did, because the odds were against that. Well, they were against right from the beginning. But, Lord just kind of laughed and grinned and said, here we go, let's go. But they had everything taken care of for me, which made a huge difference. Because I didn't have to worry about a lot of that stuff. And they put it in place when I was little. Like shortly after I was born, they put a lot of that in place. So all of things were pretty well paid for by the time I had to deal with it. There was just some small things that needed to be addressed. And the pressure that took off of an only child during a time allowed me to grieve when I needed to, and still have everything taken care of. And I think that's the value of what you bring to your clients, is that peace of mind knowing what can happen, and to be able to be there and reading those cues and being that support structure for them. So your ideal client, do you have ideal clients that you really work with? You said especially ones that like to have that little additional support. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. Well, obviously I can help anybody, no matter what stage of life. But my ideal client is somebody who is retired or nearing retirement, and who also is starting to think about, health conditions and what may be transpiring in the future, because obviously we're living longer, and with the living longer, the reality of one of us ending up in a nursing home is pretty good. And now people, if they do go into a nursing home, they are living for years. It's not the typical, 20 years ago, you went into a nursing home and, you stayed in that for only a year before you unfortunately passed on. So it's helping them, lay out plans for potential future events, such as what if a spouse has to go to a nursing home, or, what if we've got a disabled grandchild that we need to, address. But in answer to your question, that's my ideal audience, is people who are retired or nearing retirement because of all the extra issues that they are facing.
That's awesome. And that's why I appreciate you coming on to be able to kind of share that, because we have, most of my audience, we do focus a lot on entrepreneurs, but let's face facts, those entrepreneurs also have they're balancing. I know for a while I balanced taking care of dad with trying to take care of the household, and you get pulled in so many directions. And even the lot of C that I have in me, or what I call my little poodle, and there's all those little details I usually thrive upon, but I don't have time to deal with it.
Right.
I had to bring a lot of the bear out in me, and like, okay, we're just going to make a decision. The problem is sometimes I didn't have all the facts.
Right.
And it was a challenge sometimes. And having those support structure is so vital.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing.
Yes. The more you can put into place before events happen, the better off, your loved ones are going to be, and you're going to be on here. And Janet, you've experienced firsthand, how much easier it made it. I mean, obviously you still are dealing with the grief, but you're not dealing with the outside stress of trying to figure out, gosh, what kind of funeral would my parents have wanted? Or, did they want to be buried? Did they want to be cremated? So that's one of the things I also incorporate is like the holistic. We kind of talk about not only just what is your direct estate plan, but let's go out to the parameters. The more we can get the foundation laid and a plan, at least it's going to help your loved ones down the road.
Absolutely. It makes such a difference. And as I said, firsthand saying that, because it did make such a difference that I didn't have to guess.
Yes.
I knew what they wanted. It was already laid out. Everything was put together, and it was just great. And I think it goes back to me always saying, the budget's just a 4-letter word.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're talking about here. In your case, the estate planning is just a 4-letter word. And it's the same 4-letter word. And anybody knows me knows doggone well where I'm going with that. But, because all we're doing is planning. Mm-hmm. We are being proactive. And I think that's why we've connected so much, is because it's a proactive approach to dealing with the inevitable, to dealing with what we know we have to deal with. So why not proactively do it?
Yes.
And I think that's what you're offering your clients, is that proactive peace of mind.
Absolutely.
Sure. Things are in place. And then in turn, in your case, actually allowing those loved ones to be able to do what they need to do, which is not focusing in on all the little minutiae details. It's on grieving and helping that love, and working through that process. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what we want to encourage you guys. And we really want to have folks, if you have questions, I know what's the best way to reach out to you, Kristen, if I put this in the little comment section?
You can either reach out to me either by phone. My direct dial is 919-535-9131, or you can email me at KMcIntosh, and that's KMACINTOSH at nclegalcounsel.com.
I'm typing as we're talking.
Yes.
There we go. Got it. And I always have to double check, make sure I get it all, because for whatever reason, I'm flipping one of those letters every time I turn around. Yeah. But that's okay. We've got it. We've got it going there. So please take an opportunity. And I know that you are more than welcome. Truly are a happy lawyer, which is kind of, as I said, a little kind of odd duck kind of combination, but it's always, but that's who you are. And that's where you're servicing your clients, and take full advantage of it, because it is time for you to excel. And no matter who you are, whether it's the entrepreneur, whether it's the entrepreneur trying to figure out family, there's a guarantee. Eventually they're going to deal with this. Or your family is, I should say. Eventually your family is going to deal with it. So how can we make this a little bit better? How can we plan for it to make their lives a little bit easier? And you can do that by reaching out to Kristen and just having that conversation. Make sure that things are in place. And if there are questions, I encourage you. Information is there. Take full advantage of it. These are your resources to excel. Anything else you want to share, or anything else you can think of as we're wrapping up here? Thank you so much for jumping in on here and just having some fun.
Be proactive. Proactive is much better than crisis mode. And that's both on the financial with the accounting side, as well as on the estate planning side.
Absolutely. Be proactive. No crisis mode. I like that. I'm typing that as a reminder, as a last reminder to folks as they're looking at the comments. That's exactly what it is. Let's not be in crisis trying to deal with things. Correct. The more you can plan for it, just like in money management, the more we can, we know we're going to have to replace a computer. We know we're going to have to replace this or that. Why not take advantage of $20 a month versus, $2,000 in 1 month, or whatever it ends up being. Same kind of concept. That proactivity will make things so much better. So thank you, Kristen, for jumping in and having some fun, even in spite of the technical challenges that whatever the gremlins are racing off with. Which gremlins, you know me, gremlins love me. They join me every time I turn around. So,
Exactly.
and we work our way through it. We work our way. And thank you so much for being a support for me
Thank you.
and joining us in. So take care, everyone. We look forward to seeing you. Reach out to Kristen if you have any questions, especially, or if you know a loved one that is, getting nearing that retirement and hasn't had these conversations. This is a great opportunity to do that. So take care, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you on It's Time to Excel. Take care.
Okay, thank you.